Good day, everyone. I am Charles Alibutbud, and we're going to talk about the role of inflammation in the innate immunity. So let's start. So let's talk about first about the inflammation. Inflammation, it's actually the natural response of a body's immune system to the infections, injury, or tissue damages. It is actually also a complex biological process that involves the activation of various immune cells and the release of inflammatory mediators and also the recruitment of immune cells to the site of injury or infection. So here we have the illustration example of what happens when the tissue injury is caused by the physical or chemical agent or pathogenic microorganism. So first, let's talk about the first part here on this illustration, which is the capillary widening. So what happens here is that, as you can see here, there is a capillary widening that caused by the histamines. This means that these immune cells actually goes along with the blood flow, or there is an increased blood flow along with these immune cells in order to locate where the pathogens are located to attack it. And because of the increased blood flow, the person can actually experience the heat. Now, along with the capillary widening, the person will also experience redness on the inflammation of the area because of the increased capillary permeability, and it will also go along with the release of fluid. Now, next, that could also happen with this inflammation is that the person will also experience swelling and tenderness because of the compilation of these leukocytes in the body. That's why swelling and tenderness are happening. And along with it is also the attraction of white blood cells and the migration of white blood cells to the injury. These white blood cells or these leukocytes are like piling up that causes swelling. Now the last part, the person will actually experience pain, which is happens in fever, and this is because of the systemic response. Let us remember that in the fever, this fever actually progresses where it prevents these pathogens to duplicate and slowly already killing those pathogens uh, at a time. That's why this person is experiencing pain because of the fever that is happening, where this fever are helping actually to avoid the duplication of these pathogens that are attacking the body. Now let's talk about the relationship between the inflammation and then the innate immune response. Now, inflammation and the innate immune system are actually quite related in a way that this inflammation is actually the key component for the innate immune response, which is the first line of the defense against invading the pathogens. Then the body will actually detect the presence of the pathogen when it triggers the inflammatory response to eliminate the pathogen, and then the innate actually helps the healing process. Now, the innate immune system will also recognize and respond to the wide range of the pathogens that are already in the body through the activation, through the help of the various immune cells and the release of inflammatory mediators that are occurring when the inflammation is happening. So next, let's us now talk about the acute versus the chronic inflammation. Here in acute, we have several kinds of it, which is the allergic reactions, chemical irritations, infections, and then the trauma injury, burns, and then the cuts or the wounds, and then the frostbites. Now here in the chronic inflammation, we have here the cardiovascular diseases, neurological diseases, autoimmune diseases, rheumatoid arthritis, cancer, lupus, and fibromyalgia, and the chronic fatigue syndrome. Now, as we can see, uh, these two types of inflammation actually have a differences in a way that this acute inflammation are kind of just like the shallow parts of the inflammation or effect to the body, where this kind of inflammations in the acute are actually the short time period types of the inflammations, while here in the chronic inflammation is kind of a series already where it attacks and it the inflammation causes like a serious effects on the internal parts of the body, which we can see here in the examples are causing already diseases when inflammations are occurring. So let us define about the acute inflammation. This acute inflammation, this is the response to the sudden body damage, such as cutting your finger or having a wound. And then in order to heal the cut in your body needs to send inflammatory cells to the injury, such as what we've said, the immune cells that could actually help to locate the pathogens that causes the inflammation, and that occurs in the acute inflammation. Now, the cells on this inflammation would now start the healing process slowly. Next is the roles of the acute inflammation in the body. Of course, in this acute inflammation, this occurs in it occurs with the destroying of invading microbes, and then it will also induce the local blood clotting to the reducing spread of infection through the bloodstream, and then it will also help to repair the injured tissues in the body. We have the illustration here too, where the acute inflammation are happening, and then there is a microbes that are already invading the blood clot in the body. Now, the white blood cells will help to execute these microbes that are occurring here in the inflammation in order to repair the injury that is here on this illustration. Next, let's talk about the chronic inflammation. Here in the chronic inflammation, it also refers to the slow and long-term inflammation that could actually appear or occurred in the certain area for about a prolonged periods of several months to years, since it's already chronically inflamed in the body. Generally speaking, the extent and then the effects of chronic inflammation can still be various with the cause of the injury. It still depends on what kinds of injury that you have, and then the ability also, which is the immunity help of the body to repair or to overcome the damage, might still be depends. So here in the chronic inflammation, there is a persistent or microorganism, autoimmune diseases, and then hypersensitive disorders and toxic agents too. Now, another type of example here for the chronic inflammation is that uh, when our body continues sending inflammatory cells, still happens even when there is no outside danger for our body. For example, in rheumatoid arthritis, inflammatory cells and substances attacks the joint tissues, leading to an inflammation that comes and then goes and then can cause severe damage with the joints and pains and deformities too. Now, the chronic inflammation, Lastly, this chronic inflammation can actually damage healthy cells along the way because the tissues and organs, and then it can actually cause the internal scarring and then tissue death and damage to the DNA of the person in previously healthy cells. And ultimately, this can lead to the development of potentially disabling the life or threatening diseases. One of the examples are the cancers or type 2 diabetes.